Okay, hi. We're going to talk a little bit about putting the serial interface and communicating with the PLC with the serial interface. So I'm just going to open up the CLICK PLC, and here's our little program that we've been putting in there. Now, we always run with Ethernet, and there's a pretty good reason. Um, when we look at our ports up here, and I'm just going to walk the camera around a little bit, but and right now the serial interface is hooked up. That's what the white cable is. But this white cable, this is the Ethernet port. This is the serial port. When we're in operation with the trainer, that port is usually connected to our stepper motor driver because the driver takes serial commands. So normally, that port is occupied. So we can't use it for both the commands to our unit and to the stepper. So, and I suppose you could do it with just using one cable load commands and another cable to talk with the stepper, but really what you want to do is you want to be looking at the screen. It's operational, and if it's not working, you need to change it. And this is, you're looking at the signals in real time, and you have to do that. So pretty much you have to, unless you're like right now, I just have it in standalone configuration just with the platform. And if you're just toying around with the platform, you can use serial interface just fine, and it'll work out great for you. But, well, it remains to be seen how I connect up to it. But what I've got first, let's take a look. And I've got a little dongle on here. And this is the part, this is available from Automation Direct. And this is a little interface that'll convert, and again, we have USB coming out of the computer, but USB to RS-232. And again, a lot of people think universal serial bus is the same as the serial interface RS-232. No, it's not. So you need a little converter module. Now, if I look at the converter module and try to put the camera on it, it's got a couple of LEDs on there, and hopefully that LED is going to tell me that everything is correct. The white cable is just the serial interface that, RX, TX into the device. And then you have this little adapter that gets you to USB. And it's, there it is. It's got this little, I don't know, it's like a goldish type shield on it. But, and this thing is, well, if you want serial interface, that's what you're going to need. It looks a little pricey, but you might be able to find something cheaper, although I'm sure this one is guaranteed to work. So I guess let's find out if it does. So, we normally are going into the program and we're doing Ethernet, but here we'll have to go, I think it's into the setup. And these are things that we do one time. So we have to go into our Comport Setup. And normally it'll be in Ethernet, which is port 1, and it'll tell you it's for Ethernet. And this is port 2, which is RS-232. So let's take a look at its, well, let's take a look at the setup. But the first thing, and I think I need to know, and I always have to do this when I'm in, my serial devices, is I need to figure out where exactly it's hooked up into my computer. So what port it's in. So I'm going to look in Device Manager and then my ports and comms and try to figure out where that device is actually located. So here's my ports, and that's saying it's at COM 9. And at some point, I have a feeling we're going to need to know that. So let's go again into here. Now this is saying it's port 2, and it is Modbus protocol. Port 2 is actually the port on the computer, or I mean on the PLC. It's port 9 on here. So, and I'm assuming if these are all the defaults, and I'm going to leave those as is. This is just some timeout stuff. I'm going to definitely leave that as is. And let's see. Well, I'll say okay. Now, let's see if we can connect up. And now we have to change this from Ethernet to serial. Let's see what that looks like. guess it probably is USB. So let's see USB. Okay, so this does show us that we have this converter. So you don't, in our previous choice, when it came up, it has serial, but that's if you have an actual serial RS-232 on your computer, which would probably mean you're using a pretty old computer. So we want to go USB. And now this is COM2, which again, let's see what we have. Okay, so we can change that to COM9. So now, and let's see what it says for details. Okay, so this is saying that it is our little adapter deal. So let's take a look, and we're going to leave all this the same. Well, let's see what this auto detect does. Let's see, start. And I have a feeling that we're going to have to go through all these different baud rates and parity configurations. So I think maybe we'll just, well, we should be on node 1, and we should hit it at 38.4. So we'll give it to 38.4. If it doesn't get it there, then we might just stop this process and just try to connect. And let's see what happens. Cannot connect to the PLC. Oh, okay. Yeah, of course I can't, because I turned my PLC off when I was connecting things up. So let's go out here for a second. I'm going to turn it on. And now let's try this again. So I'm going to connect up the PLC. And I'm going to go back, and we're USB, and now we know we're at COM9, and connect. And okay, so this gives some indication this is a thing that normally comes up, so we don't want to read it. So we'll say okay. And now we'll go in, and we'll actually write the project into the PLC. And you know, when it comes up and it says, well, we get this screen, which is good, and now we'll go to run mode, and you can see the light goes out when it's in stop mode, and as soon as it comes back. And it also looks like it takes longer when it's doing the serial mode. That's pretty obvious. Okay, so the transfer is complete, and now we go into run mode, and it should be the same as normal. So here we see our screen, and now if I go into this, we get our normal green light on. And so that looks good. And I'm also looking at this. So now, let me just move over to our little dongle again. So now, I don't know how well it can shows up here, but we've got a couple little LEDs on the unit, and one is a green LED, and let me see if I can move this to a little, I don't know if it's going to appear any differently, but if I zoom in on here, there's two little LEDs that are blinking. I don't know how well that'll show up here, but one is actually a little green LED, and next to it is a red LED. Anyway, I can kind of see the green one blinking for sure. The red one is just adjacent to it to the right. And sometimes you can see it pop up a little bit in color. And I'm sure those are the transmit and receive indicators from that protocol converter. And if I also go over to the PLC itself, and I'm going to have to probably shadow this, but there's also a couple blinking lights right there that are next to each other, and yeah, you can see both of those are blinking together, and those are transmit and receive, and you can actually see it's actually identified on the unit as TX and RX. So that was actually fairly easy for connecting up the serial interface. And again, the deal is that in operational mode, when we have the Wonka machine, that port is taken. And I don't know, I guess you could, you could do it and just swap cables, but boy, that is going to be a really hard thing to do if you want to be efficient about working with it. So Ethernet is definitely the way to go. But in the standalone configuration, and right now I just have a PLC platform for what I'm doing right now. Yeah, serial is fine. Again, you'll need the little adapter guide that we have here, and we can kind of, I guess we'll put a cut sheet somewhere in the manual that says if you want serial interface, you got to do this. And again, your best bet would be to get this from Automation Direct. And apparently we did that sometime when we were originally ordering the parts and components for the PLC, but I've never actually ever used this interface box, but it is really simple to hook up. It's pretty much just like the other one. You just have to go in and make sure you know what port you're actually connected to on your computer, and you just have to use Device Manager to do that. So I guess that's what we're going to show for the serial interface. And there is something to be said for using serial interface, because if you wanted the Wonka machine isolated and off a network, because it really doesn't need to be on a network, you'd say, well, serial interface is probably a good deal, but it becomes really problematic because that's also the port that the stepper driver is running on. So kind of think you're going to have to use the internet as your main interface. Anyway, that's a little talk about the serial interface if you ever want to connect up that way. Thanks.